main stream blocked, so then everything backed up and bubbled up on the corner of 800 West and 400 North. But it wasn't even our sewer, it bubbled in Lindon.
There, so I'm,
Our guys had to come out at midnight.
so we aren't connected at all to TSSD. So it was just the canal or something, or?
So their main line coming from Blessing Grove and Vineyard run on 400 North, right?
Their main sewer line?
Their main sewer line.
Oh,
And before he crosses the canal or the railroad, I can do the railroad.
Show us where you're talking
On,
about.
on TSSD property before 800 West and 400 North.
2800 west, 400 north.
Right there, so yeah, it crosses the railroad. So before it crosses the railroad, that manhole right in the corner, you start bubbling out where the police says there's about a foot of sewage on the road.
oh, and that's raw sewage. That's not treated, right? That's just raw.
On Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas indeed.
Now string your fingers. And pull that open.
Yes, there are.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Interesting technique.
Well, I mean, either way, it works. That's the sign of a good job. That's true on many levels.
Like this and then go here.
Ready to go, Mayor, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Are you good to lead in the pledge for real? Let's do it. All right. Get my microphone here. All right, welcome everyone to our new year, our first public meeting here for the year 2025. And we have a full quorum here, so this is exciting. Thank you, gentlemen. We will begin our city council meeting this evening, 5:15 p.m. here on Monday, January 6th, here in the Lindon City Council chambers. And I will be presiding. My name is Mayor Carolyn Lundberg, and we will now begin our program as always, first with an invocation, which I would like to invite Councilmember Lincoln Jacobs to provide, followed by a pledge of allegiance led by our Public Works Director, Juan Gurrido.
Our dear Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening, Father, grateful for the opportunity that we have to gather to discuss city issues. We are grateful for this wonderful land that we live in, for this amazing city that we live in, for so many residents that do so much and go out of their way to help us to be able to have an enjoyable place to raise our families. We're grateful for those first responders, Father. We're so grateful for their heroic efforts that they provide, the life-saving efforts that they provide us here in our community, and helping us to keep law and order in place. We pray that that would bless us each this evening as we are interacting with one another. Help us to remember to be calm and peaceful and uplifting to one another in seeking the most appropriate decisions that need to be made on behalf of our city and residents in their entirety. We pray thy Spirit to be with us, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much. All right, we will now begin with our call to order. Roll call. I'll start here on my right.
Stewart present.
Cole Hooley present.
Carolyn Lundberg present.
Jake Hoyt present.
Lincoln Jacobs present.
Van Broderick present.
Okay, fantastic. We're all here in attendance, and on our presentation and announcements, we don't have anything here unless any council members have something outside of their reports. Okay, seeing none, I'll move to item number 3. And this is an open session for public comment. We invite the public to come forward at this point if they have anything they would like to address not on the agenda. We'll give that a moment. Seeing none here present, we will assume there are none this evening, and we'll move forward then on to item number 4, our council reports. And Steve, if you'd like to head us off, that'd be great.
Just want to Our youth council will be attending the local officials day at the legislature Wednesday, January 22nd. We have quite a group going. It's sponsored by the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Very excited for them to have that opportunity. They've enjoyed it the last 2 years, and our group is very excited to go again. Our legislators have all mentioned they'd love to lead them in a tour, and we're hoping that can happen. Also, for our senior center, I just wanted to have you note the newsletter that comes out that Jamie Jensen puts out. It is really fascinating, the things that she puts in. She talked this month about Lindon active agers, which I guess I'm in that category now. I'm an active ager. It's a newsletter with great information. This month it talked about a holistic approach to promoting health and quality of life as people grow older. Provide health tips, recipes, laughter, birthdays, and also they put on a great New Year's Eve luncheon that Friday before Christmas, and it was just a lot of fun, well attended. We had singers from Lindon Elementary School. We had dancers come from a local dance studio. About 40 kids came. The seniors that were there were well entertained and well fed, and I just want to note that our senior center's in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, council, how many of you are going to come up for the day at the legislature this month? All right.
I want to go with you if you can get me there.
Okay, yes, you can come with our youth council. We'll be heading up pretty early in the morning. You want to ride the bus with us? We might go like 6:30, okay?
So Lincoln,
Right.
have you registered then on your own, or do you need me to do that for you?
I haven't done anything. Should I?
I'll see if I can add you to our group, so,
Okay.
okay.
We'd love to have you. That'd be great. Okay, go ahead, Cole.
For the communities that care, probably the most efficient thing would be just to point people to their website that's housed on the recreation website, Lindon Cares. They're just starting up this next wave of classes for parents and teens, and it's just really amazing. Lots of really great offerings there. Historic Commission and the others, they're all doing well. Nothing to report there. I think probably the mayor and I were talking about this, and we didn't know the most efficient way to disseminate this information, if it's like via an email with bullets, but in regards to the school district stuff going on, the interlocal committee met before the holidays, after we executed the interlocal agreement, and some of the big takeaways, we're working together with the other cities really well to just get all the paperwork done. Adam's taken a lead to make sure the map and the paperwork, the actual form got submitted to the state. We have a follow-up meeting tomorrow. The county is forming their committee to make the board seat maps, and that committee will comprise of various county officials, 2 people from our interlocal committee, and then 2 members of the public. And they're charged with drawing the map, ensuring that the maps that would be the boundaries for each of the board seats is good. So that's another item coming up. There was also discussion, there's lots of different groups sending information to legislators about the proposed amendments that Senator Grover has proposed. And there was a number of items that a number of cities we agreed were good or bad. And so there were some statements that we said, yep, we're for this. There were also some statements that it wasn't unanimous. And so different groups are starting to advocate for their positions. I don't know. That's.
I know there's
That's
a
good.
ton of information going to flow through what you're doing here, but if you could keep us up with just kind of bullet points of kind of the highlights of things that are being discussed. And
So are you asking for an email or something that he
yeah,
can
just
just?
Yeah,
an
that's
email,
possible.
something.
We're actually scheduled to meet tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I know our interlocal will have to put forward 2 people from the 4 cities, and I don't know who this is to represent at the county level, just for that boundaries of the elected boundaried areas.
So
So-
2 people from our city council, like Steve and
Two
like.
people
Two
from
people
all
the
4 cities
Oh,
that the county, and then they'll have 2 at-large, so they already closed the application for an at-large citizen, 2 at-large citizens to apply. The county will select, and then they'll put together this committee. So
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you feel strongly about the boundary needs to be here or there. This is for the elected board member seats. So not boundary, we're talking boundaries are 2 different things. The
Yeah, it's not the
district boundary is
school
one thing,
boundaries, it's the board boundaries.
the board representation.
Regardless of what happens, with Lindon being a small city, we're going to share representation no matter
Yes.
what
Well-
we do. As far as
Yes.
boundaries, I'm not sure it is gonna really matter. We're gonna share with Pleasant Grove and
Yeah.
Orem, no matter
Right now,
how.
we have 2 reps,
on
spread,
either
one
yeah.
shares
We won't
that
have
way,
one
one
rep
shares
that
the other way.
represents our
It'll
whole
probably be
city.
Olive Linden, but then it'll be a question of a sliver of Orem and Olive Linden, or a sliver of PG and Olive Linden,
Right.
you know, probably. I mean, probably the most discussed item so far has been an item on the proposed amendment that has to do with reimbursing the reorganized district, which would be us, for implementation costs. There's a little phrase in there that the 2 new districts would need to reimburse, and there's a lot of question marks about what that means and how it would play out, and trying to be thoughtful on both sides about what that means and what it looks for. But I think that's been one issue that has not, across the 14 cities, been looked at the same way. But there have been many things in that amendment that the 14 cities did look at the same way, both to support and others to say, no, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, so I guess,
The 14 cities are fairly unanimous. We do not feel this proposed legislation calls for an intermediary advisory board to be established.
there's
I
not
think
a
everyone's
board,
pretty
yeah,
unanimous, no, that's not wanted or needed.
yeah.
The reimbursement is the one point of potential contention. They feel that they should not reimburse or just do a minimal, compensation towards
Yeah.
rebranding or something, but nothing
Substantial.
too much. So what that's gonna look like is probably gonna be.
So, Mayor,
Yeah.
you and Cole are the 2 representatives from Lindon that are
Adam.
part of this group, and Adam.
So we've had our
how-
city attorneys, so the 4
Okay.
cities right now, so there's 2 things, there's several groups that have been going. So sometimes the 14 cities have been getting together, and it went from all 14 cities and just anybody could come of their elected officials, and they were like, this is too big, too many voices, let's kind of focus this in. So now, Cole and I kind of go to those when they're held, and I think we had one before the holiday break.
Yeah.
The end of what?
And then
at
now
what-
we have the 4-city interlocal
Right.
group meeting.
Okay, so when will your work end? Will it be up to when everything's kind of outlined and divided up, and then we're ready to elect a board? Is that kind of when your work?
I think initially, right now, we're trying to meet fairly regularly because there's still some items of business, just administrative, that have to be handled. One of the things we're going to be covering, and I anticipate in the next meeting with the 4-city group, is how we will structure and govern ourselves
Okay.
during this.
I
And
just
then-
want to
yeah.
put something in here on the record for you two to consider
Yeah.
as you talk about those 4 cities, is the most important thing will end up being decided is who our new superintendent and who our new business manager will be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be competitive. You're going to have 3 new districts all looking for the best, and so we need to be on top of that.
That's great feedback.
Adam.
School board, that wouldn't be this group.
Yeah, the one amendment would have, that would have put that
Prior.
first, but hopefully that doesn't go through, and then it would be a board thing, but that's still good feedback if that were to come up. But yeah, so happy to
I
send
think-
like a bulleted email to you all so you can know, but anyway.
I would love that, because citizens do reach out and say, so what's going on? And right now, I feel like I'm in a little bit of a vacuum.
I think one thing to clarify, there is a group that has organized that's trying to send out information and say, hey, we're gonna do focus groups, we're gonna do surveys, and that's a citizen-led initiative. So that's great, people are getting involved. That's not the interlocal committee that's doing that, so it's, and the other thing, I think there's been some confusion about what the county committee is sent to do. I've seen people saying, oh, this is what the new school boundary should be. And that's beyond the purview of the county's committee. They're doing the board seat districting.
Is there a name for the interlocal agreement such that we can say, if you hear it from,
So we don't have a name,
we
but we
temporarily
put like
registered.
Timpanogos School District as the placeholder in our documents. So that would be the one, Timpanogos School District.
And when we met with the 14 cities, it was a little bit funny. The West said, we all said, what's your temporary name you registered with the state until, your new board gets elected and picks one? And one said, we're Mountain Lake. And the other said, uh-oh, we're Lake Mountain. So someone's got to change that. Anyway.
well, we stand out, that's awesome. What matters is us.
Yeah, yeah.
Adam, do you have any additional comment? Adam's been very involved in this and helping the four city group is made up of the city attorneys, the 4 city administrators, and then a council member and a mayor. So that's our new district, South District group of, trying to navigate next steps and taking care of what needs to get done.
Will there be 7 board members?
Yeah.
So,
And we have to wait to see what the amendments, if they pass or not, because there's some timing things in there that,
and he's referring to Senator Grover's.
yeah, sorry, Senator Grover put forward a draft of
Legislation.
amendments to the school, and there were others alluded to. So, you know how it goes. In a few months, this could all be quite different.
Right. As we will be having to get schooled on what the 45 days accomplishes, as we always do each year.
Yeah, this is the draft. This isn't the final, the plat map that shows the current Alpine School District would be the outside line of all of those. And then it's a little bit hard to follow, but our Timpanogos district, so you got Pleasant Grove, Lindon, Vineyard, Orem. Maybe I'll use this since that's what you guys are looking at. Pleasant Grove, Lindon, Vineyard, Orem, but then we incorporate all of this county, and then this is all just lake. And then you've got the central district, and then the west side over here. So,
Lots of schools of fish and
Moving forward. The other thing that I was going to mention, I anticipate our meeting tomorrow, we're going to be discussing how this 4-city interlocal will govern itself. And we do anticipate, Orem being the biggest population base will be, the largest voting block or city. But we've talked about, especially here at the initial out the gate, we need to probably treat each other more like equal partners, have kind of equal footing on some say. But as it progresses through the year, we anticipate Orem will probably assert a little bit more of a say, and then if their eventual board representation, obviously, it will be that. Okay, I'll go ahead and pass the baton to you, to Jake.
Yeah, glad to see our chief walked in. I think there was an email that went around about our PD this last week, articles in both the Herald and KSL. Chief, do you mind just taking a quick second and give us a recap and know there was multiple agencies, ATF, major crimes, quite the event.
I'd be happy to. So the 29th, Sunday, we had a fairly extensive burglary with a business and a firearms business down on Geneva Road. 70 weapons were stolen from that. Handguns and rifles were stolen from that. Other items within that business were stolen. We immediately went to work. Following morning, we started writing several search warrants. The ATF became involved heavily, which was an immense help. We also coordinated with Pleasant Grove Police Department, Major Crimes Task Force. Eventually, American Fork Police Department were involved as well to help serve some warrants. So it was a very big coordinated event. A lot of hours, guys went to work. I think several, we took it personal that kind of activity would happen. So we went to work on it and ended up arresting 4 individuals responsible, along with recovering most of the property, along with property from at least 3 other businesses that were not involved that night. So we're still working the case. It's still somewhat active, so that's kind of what I can give you at that point on that. But there's your update. Yeah, you bet.
Great job. I appreciated the media coverage on it. I felt they were fair and honest to our team and to our city, so I really appreciated that. Only other thing I have to add is that the Chamber of Commerce has the State of the Cities, 11:45, January 14th. That's a Tuesday. Does that sound right, Mayor?
At Trucordia.
Trucordia, which is a Lindon business,
It is.
so.
Yep, so just going out over the freeway interchange, building on the left there. Perfect. So
Okay, that's all I have.
Trucordia had their big ribbon cutting. I know a couple of you were there. So it's that same location.
Do we need to RSVP for that?
They sent out one today.
I saw a general one to the chamber. Do we respond to that, or?
That one that they sent out, you have to pay a fee on, and you guys shouldn't be paying a fee since we are covered under our city,
Just put
so.
in Lindon City,
What I
yeah.
would do is just do a reply on that email and tell them that you're coming as a city representative, and they shouldn't charge you, so.
I don't think I saw that email. Well, I have looked today.
So that was initially at the Hyatt House, is that right? Was that changed
That's
to
changed,
Trucordia?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Jake? All right, Lincoln.
So I think probably all of us got this invite. It kind of was a MAG UDOT Utah Trails invitation. And in my mind, well, it came a few weeks ago. But in fact, I think a month and a half ago or so, maybe even a couple months ago. But in my mind, trails, mountain bike, hey, that's all me. So I went more as a personal interested individual. What it turned out to be is SB 185 passed legislation in 2023, and they're connecting trails all through here and over there and everywhere else. And they're all ADA? Yeah, all ADA accessible. They're not mountain biking trails, they're paved trails that create an interconnected world. He compared it to like when the federal government created the interstate network back in the 50s for the United States. They're doing this kind of a thing. They have a $45 million a year budget. Their role is to build and maintain. They had a bunch of maps with a bunch of trails. They said, where is it important? Where are the destinations that we want to have in there? And Mayor, I put the Lindon Town Center on there. I also put the UVU Lindon
Center.
Park Nature Center, yes. Now that's
Fantastic.
already running by some trails, and those are kind of being incorporated into all of this. But I still put it on there. So it was very interesting, and I think it's valuable for us to stay involved. I'm happy to stay involved now that they've got my name and number, and I'll be getting correspondence back and forth with them. But again, they're paying to maintain. So as we have, they're not trying to supersede any trails that we've got, but trails that we have that are on their map, I think we can get funding to help maintain these, right? So we probably should look into that. And then really, I have been spending dozens and dozens and dozens of hours on the 1200 East Road. To pull that off of our general plan, if it gets pulled off, we're not going to get it back, right? So to me, I've just been spending a ton of time. I visited with Chief Brower. I visited with Fire Chief Sanderson. I did a 3-hour mountain bike ride way up high and way down below, and I bumped into the Salt Lake Metro pipeline guys doing some maintenance work up there. We had a 40-minute conversation. They were so excited to talk to somebody who was interested, and they told me things that you probably wouldn't hear anywhere else. It was great information.
Wow.
I chatted with Juan and Noah. From that conversation, Juan created some documents that Adam's going to be presenting tonight. I've been looking a lot into the land swapping. When does it happen? When does it not happen, right? We had our legislators here. You heard me ask the question about BLM land. None of this land above us is BLM land. It's national wilderness. It's national forest. It's state wildlife management. I've been looking at some of the cases throughout the country and in Utah relative to when developers are acquiring that federal land to do their developments. In the housing crisis that we're in, it's happening. And so as a city, we just need to appreciate all this. Adam doesn't incorporate really any of that tonight, but he suggested I present it to the council at some point, and I would love to. I'd like to do it before we do the 1200 East, just so we understand some of those other ramifications. There are 120 acres of topographically developable land above 1200 East. And I can show you all of it. I have it all mapped out, and I can show you and compare it with other communities. 120 acres up there.
Currently owned by
Currently
one
owned
of those three.
by state, federal, and there's a little bit of private. Yeah, so it's some good information, and Lindon City extends far above any of our neighboring cities. I think Adam said there was a well up there, and so when we incorporated, we went high. And so all of this,
We had past mayors that are very proud that they dedicated that land out of private hands so that our foothills could stay pristine, so, yeah.
cool, but let's look at it because it still changes. The federal government swaps land for whatever it needs. Anyway, I can show it to you. You can decide as a city, do we need to amend the general plan further east? Are we comfortable with where it's at and just let what happen happen? That'll be that'll be a presentation I'll bring up in the future. That's all I have.
Thank you for your time on that.
Thank you. And Juan, thank you for the update on things happening in Public Works. So the well being drilled at the cemetery, the drilling company is demobilizing from the site, and we hope the road will be open by this Friday. What comes in after the drilling company is the developing company. You have to develop the well, and that'll start here hopefully about mid-January and go for around 6 weeks. 8 to 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And after that, then we do some test flows and start figuring out what type of a structure we'll put on there and the future part of it. This does not mean water's coming out at this point. This just gets us through the first parts of this.
They did send an email update just today that they're scheduling with their crews on that development crew. It could be into early February, so just an FYI. So it might, Mayor, if your neighborhood asks, it might look like nothing's happening for 3 weeks, and that's correct.
But the road will open.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, two different companies, the drilling company and now the developing company that comes in behind. So do we have, if I'm understanding this correctly, backup generators now on all of our wells?
Two wells.
Whales?
Well number one, that is being also rebuilt right now, and well number three. So those are the two wells that will have the backup power in case there is a prolonged power outage. We'll be able to, with the new production we're getting out of those, about 1,400 gallons a minute, which is sufficient to provide the water for in a prolonged power outage for the whole city. If it's in the summertime, we might have to distill ration waters, so we don't use it for outdoor water use, but at least for drinking and showering and all those good things. But and then we have the two other generators at the booster pump stations on 1200 East and 835 East. So with that system, with a prolonged power outage, we'll be able to get the water out of the ground into the tanks, all the way to the highest tank in Canberra. And that's something that Adam tasked me about 4.5 years ago, and I finally got it done.
Nice.
Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff to have come, and I hadn't remembered it had been that long, but quite a process in that. The Provo River Aqueduct connection is now 100% complete, and so it'll be ready for the next year's irrigation.
And will we use it next year?
Yes.
We'll start using it?
So next year, if I can add to this, we have our irrigation company meetings coming up with the shareholders in February. I'm gonna send you the schedule. But the plan right now is to run the canal one more year, but without Lindon's water in it as much as we can, so people can actually see what the actual flow is gonna be in the canal. And the conversation I had today with John Tucker, kind of going through the last figures of how many shares that translate to acre feet, that translate to cubic feet per second that we have to have in the water. And I'm pointing it out to about 5 to 6 CFS. And we'll see during the first 4 or 6 weeks of the irrigation season, we're just gonna put that water just for those users. And I'm planning on getting all the water that we need for the spring when we have low usage, just to be delivered through the PRA and the Reach 3 onto Zone 2. And then we'll see how that pans out. And we might have to, if we don't have all the capacity that we need in the PRA, we might need to supply ourselves water through the pro bench, but I'll keep you updated.
So do we have the same liability in, if there's any problems in the North Union Canal, even though we're not using very much of it, or?
Yeah, everybody shares on the liability. For example, Orem hasn't been taking water in the canal for 10, 15 years. And because they still part of the company, shareholder, and with our assessments, we all share the liability,
They pay dues, sharing the liability, whatever.
regardless if there is any other water with their name on it from the canal. We're still part of the company.
All right. Has there been any talk about turning that into a trail someday when there's no longer any users along it as it kind of falls away?
I think that question's been asked. I'm not sure how many people have great information to know the entire stretch of the canal, which easements are which and what could be done with it.
Years ago, Orem actually prepared a study and quite extensive that looked at this question and had looked at a trail along that. Unfortunately, the canal, most of the easements are for water transport only. It doesn't say anything about a trail or about moving people. In a lot of areas, it's just a prescriptive right. There are no easements, and so it's running through people's backyard properties.
Okay.
And so it was determined after their study that it was so much was encumbered by other rights that it really wasn't feasible, and to turn that into a trail, unfortunately, so.
Good information.
Okay, good to know. All right, and then just a quick note, the Little Miss Lindon 2025 court will be, they have applications going right now until January 17th. And then also, let's see, Saturday evening, the Ruth had its grand opening ribbon cutting and first show, and it's a beautiful facility, and adjacent next door, they will have another building dedicated to teaching youth drama and music, and so it's going to be a really great arts center.
And just on that, the Ruth has given, let's see, so 250 or so free tickets to teachers at Lindon Elementary, Oak Canyon, and to arts organizations here in Lindon. So they've been doing a lot to give back to the community, and
That is wonderful.
it's been really awesome.
Okay, and then today, Michael Florence and I met with one of the property owners there along the corridor. As you probably noticed, he wrote in the January newsletter, our Lindon City Economic Development Director, Mike Florence, wrote about a couple things that are coming, like the light on Anderson Boulevard and 700 North. We're just trying to work with one property owner who needs to dedicate some property there for UDOT to be able to install that. And so hopefully it's moving in the right direction with that conversation. And Mike's done a great job following up and trying to help them understand how this is a win-win for all. So we'll hopefully see that forthcoming. And then we also have a meeting this Thursday with Castlewood to see the next iteration site plan. They informed us that the first go around, they thought they could do better. They went ahead and hired a different designer that they thought would hopefully follow the vision that they and we have together a little bit better. So we're looking forward to seeing that so we can progress on our city center development agreement there. So, and have more to be able to announce hopefully soon. Okay, I will now move on to our administrator's report. This is item number 5 on our agenda.
Just a reminder, our next meeting, January 21st, is a Tuesday because of the holiday there, so Tuesday at 5:15. And then our budget kickoff meeting, our working dinner meeting, February 20th, is a Thursday at 5:15, so just put those on your calendar. And then wanted to just discuss really quick this open house process for later tonight. So hopefully we can wrap up this current meeting by about 6:45. So we've got about an hour to finish these other items. So our thought was to just pull these two tables apart and have 4 stations, one on either end of the room here, and then one on either end of the rostrum, where we'll have 24 by 36 maps and then copies of those preliminary plans that were done. We'll have some sticky notes, things that people can come up and ask questions. Our city engineer and Mike and Juan will be here to help man some of these tables. So what we've advertised for in this meeting at 7 is a joint planning commission and city council meeting as a presentation item. There's no open session, and we did not intend to take public comment during the presentation, but we'll take comment from the planning commission and city council. So I've set up this row of chairs here for you and the planning commissioners. If you want to stay up here, we can do that. We just would need to clean up quick. Any thoughts on?
And then where do you want us after you're done? Just
You are welcome to mingle
Up and roam the room or
roam.
sit at a station?
Yep.
Okay.
So, does that sound okay? So we'll have you and the planning commissioners down here. I'll just be giving that presentation. It's about 45 minutes worth of slides and things to go through. This is a big, complicated process. And
I
so-
assume it's gonna be recorded and it's gonna be on
Yes.
YouTube.
Yes.
So if we're sitting down here, if we have any comments to make along the way
We'll
and you want us
have
to
a few
mic.
microphones that you can pass around.
Okay, so that's my only, you said, do you want to sit here or down there? Here it might be easier to be mic'd down there.
Yeah, the planning commissioners would be sitting down here if you're up there, so.
I think for us to be as a body joint with the planning commission, it might feel nicer to be
Okay.
down there with them. So if you all are amenable to that, so that
Okay.
we're kind of together.
Okay, we'll do that.
And we're not really presiding over the meeting at that point. We're more an audience to the staff.
There are some comments that I think I'd
You're
like to
welcome
make.
do that. Yeah, okay.
So,
Okay.
You'll be able to do that.
And then, so what we'll do is, once we finish the presentation and your questions, we will adjourn your combined planning commission and council meeting, Mayor. And so we'll adjourn, and then we're gonna break up into the more open house style when people can go ask questions, so,
Just hang out until people leave.
yeah, is that okay?
so we have to make sure Van has a mic so he can adjourn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pass it along.
Let's see, I think that is all I have, Mayor, thank you.
All right, okay, council, we now have the approval of the minutes from our December 16th, 2024 meeting. If you've had a chance to look at those, this would be the time to provide any adjustments or
I had a
changes.
dumb one, I should have just emailed you on it. Page 9 or 2 of 7 for the minutes, under my council report, it says within police department, just needs to be police department update. Simple. And with that, I'm ready to make a motion unless there's any
I
other
have no other
changes.
changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the city council minutes of December 16th, 2024, with that one small change.
And I just have one quick one as well on my report on page 9. Here, Brittany, line 34 through 36. I just wanted to designate that the second comment with the sister cities is the school district configuration. There, it wasn't regarding UIA. It could be construed as the same topic, so just a little clarification. Thank you. Okay, we have,
Brittany?
all right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any, second by Councilmember Broderick. Any further changes or discussion? Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you. All right, now we have on our consent agenda, item number 7, this does not require any public discussion or comment. These are just some general housekeeping items. So we have a resolution here to consider our public meeting schedule. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to look at that on the calendar, see if there's any issues.
So you had already approved this in December, and there was just one change on one of the dates there, that we just had to jump it one day because of a holiday there, so. Everything else is the same as what you've already approved.
Remind us what day that was?
Off the top of my head now, September 15th, is that it was the 15th is what was listed, it's actually the 16th.
The only question I have is I know that we were discussing perhaps changing Lindon Days celebration week. And I don't know that it affects this calendar necessarily, but I did have a question if we we're going to discuss that formally at some point.
We can, yeah. That it's not on our radar that I know
Okay.
of, so that's something
We'll
Heath had
circle
just
back
pitched, but
with our
I'll
Parks
ask
and
Heath
Rec
to bring
department.
something forward.
I just know that there were some discussions because of the school district school starts earlier and earlier and earlier. And our traditional first week of August just bumps right into nearly the time that school starts. And so there was some comment about maybe bumping Lindon Days back a week. I don't know how serious Parks and Rec is about that, but if they
Okay,
want
I'll
us
ask Keith
to
to
look at it
present
for this
that.
calendar year,
Okay.
perhaps. I'd heard that might be an issue.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that does pass. Item number 8 now, this is a review and action on some financial reports. We'd like to invite our representative from Gilbert and Stewart, as well as Kristen Colson-Aaron here, our finance director. Thank you very much, and welcome again.
All right. This is Ron Stewart with Gilbert and Stewart CPA service, and he performed the audit with his helpers. I'll turn the time over to you.
Okay. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here tonight. Like they said, we were contracted to perform the audit for your city for this fiscal year.
I apologize. Is that microphone turned on, or, okay, if you could speak in the
To
microphone.
get close.
Yes, just to catch the
that better?
recording. Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
So what I'd like to do is just take a couple minutes and tell you what we do as auditors and how we came to the conclusions that we came to. Kristen knows the financial statements back and forth, and so if you have questions on the numbers, she probably can answer them. But I'll just tell you what we did as auditors and our conclusions. So there's really 3 areas we look at when we do a financial statement audit. One is to make sure your financial statements are materially correct, and it meets accounting standards, and that you can rely upon those numbers. The second is we want to make sure that the internal controls within the city are designed, that they're implemented, and they're working effectively. And then the third is that you're in compliance with state law in the areas that we look at during that fiscal year. So as far as the financial statements go, we take the trial balance or the books of the city, and then we perform a number of tests on those balances to make sure that those are materially correct. The first thing we do is we look at it, make sure it's clerically accurate, that it actually balances. And then we start performing tests. We send out confirmations. So we'll send out a confirmation to a bank to make sure the cash balances that we're showing match what the bank shows. We do that for property taxes, sales tax, use tax, Class C roads, URS pension, anything that we can think that we can confirm with an outside party, we'll send that confirmation, as well as debt, of course. We send those as well. We also do look at a significant number of invoices. At the beginning of the audit, we'll just pull a random sample, and then we'll look at those. Does the check match the invoice? Is it posted in the proper period? Is it posted to the proper account? Kind of gives us a good sense of how the city is doing and the controls that are in place there. We also do that as we're going through and testing balances. So we'll look at capital assets. We'll pull invoices for those. We'll pull a number of invoices after the fiscal year is over to make sure that the expense is posted in the proper period. So if something happened in June, but we didn't pay for it in July, we'll make sure that expenses are recorded in June. So we'll look at those invoices for that as well as accrued liabilities and various other balances as we go through our testing. There's a number of calculations on a financial statement, and so we'll go through and recalculate those balances, make sure those calculations meet accounting standards and are appropriate for the city. We do that for accrued payroll, depreciation expense, compensated absences, pensions, and other accounts as we go through those. We also do a number of analytical reviews. So at the beginning of the audit, we'll take this year, compare it to last year, compare it to the year before, and say, okay, what's different, what's changed? We kind of create some expectations of, we think this is what it should be, and if those expectations suddenly are far exceed what we thought they would, then that's where we start asking questions, providing additional testing, and trying to understand what happened. We also do that analytical review as we're testing individual balances. So if we're looking at cash, we'll again look at that this year to last year and see, what happened and why. And then once the financial statements are written, we do that a third time as the final package is there, just kind of a high overview. Is there anything that stands out that just doesn't seem to make sense that we haven't covered? Make sure we cover those. Through all those, the testing and lots of other different things that we do, that's the process that we came to come to the conclusion that the financial statements are materially correct and meet those accounting standards. Our opinion, what is really what we're here for, is to issue an opinion on the financial statements. I'll grab that really quick. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city as of June 30th, 2024, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows, and the respective budgetary comparison of the general fund and the major special revenue funds thereof for the year that ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's considered an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, or the best opinion that you can receive. So breaking that down just means that those financial statements meet that accounting standards, and they are materially correct. Second thing we do is we look at internal controls. Like I said, we want to make sure those controls are designed, that they're implemented, they're actually working within your city to protect the assets of the city. We don't give an opinion on those, but we do evaluate those as we go through our process. We do that through interviews and walkthroughs and questionnaires. So we'll sit down with the accounting staff and say, walk me through the process of how we get from A to B. And then as we're doing our testing, we kind of look at those and see, are we following those processes? And as we're doing that as well, we kind of look in a few areas. This year, I think we looked at accounts, cash disbursements, receipts, and payroll were some of the things we said. And so we asked, hey, give us a bank statement and some invoices and your POs, and we walked that through and said, okay, are the controls actually working as they go through? If there was a portion of your city that just didn't have controls, or those controls were not working at all, that would be considered a material weakness. If those controls were in place at one time, but they're just not effective anymore, things have changed, we consider that a significant deficiency. Through our testing, through our interviews and walkthroughs, we found that your controls were in place, and they were designed and they were implemented and effective. So there's nothing that we need to report that we would consider a material weakness or a significant deficiency. So we feel like your controls are working within your city. And then the final thing we do is state compliance. So the state auditor gives us a list of areas within the city. Some of those we have to do every year. Some of those we can rotate between a 3-year basis. So within 3 years, we'll make sure that we've covered every one of those areas. They give us certain procedures to perform, and then so we perform those procedures. What we looked at this year from the state, I can get there. We looked at budgetary compliance, fund balance, fraud risk assessment, justice court, restricted taxes, government fees, and Utah retirement system. So we go through those procedures and ask the questions, look at the documents to make sure you're in compliance with state law. The only thing that we found this year as we were going through our testing, the state requires that the fund balance of the general fund cannot exceed 35% of the revenues in that year. And it looks like we exceeded that this year. Translation, we need to make some journal entry, or a budget transfer to move some money over to the capital projects fund with a purpose to spend that money in the future. So as long as you continue to have...
How far off was it?
It was,
1,400?
yeah, it was up there.
3,000, so.
Yeah.
The, $1.5 million transfer loan that we did to the sewer fund, I treated it as an expense, and it's, due to, due from, so it was just, it affected the fund balance. It didn't.
Yeah, we thought that was gonna be an expense when it was actually just a note between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, just a review of the budget, making that transfer as part of your budgetary process when you get to the end of the year, makes a big deal. Other than that, I'm open to any questions anybody has about what we did and our conclusions.
I have a few questions. What are we on page 33? It talks about the certificate that we've earned. When do,
That's through Kristen's letter.
is that, so I shouldn't ask.
Well, no, you can ask Kristen.
Yeah, we're submitting 2024 FY report to the GFOA to determine its eligibility for another certificate. When do we find that out?
So we found this out that for the 2023 that we submitted in December of 23. We found out, I think, in September. It was once we had started the audit, and I was waiting for the review comments for things that we can improve on. And we were already in the process, so it's like, hopefully we can implement it.
So your audit happens in June and we find out the certificate in September.
So,
Is that right?
right, so the year ended June 30, 2023. We go through the audit process and the financials were ready, and so I applied for the award in December of 23, and we found out in September of 24.
Oh, okay.
So about 9 months.
Okay, page 39, and I think this is to Ron. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one from resulting from error.
Where are we looking at?
In the audit report, just,
Beginning of page 39.
so.
First line on 39.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
They're going
So,
off of
okay.
Just
repeat
curious
that.
what that,
Well, I think if, obviously fraud is gonna be higher on everybody's list of concerns, right? So the risk of somebody taking money is probably greater than the risk of somebody putting a debit and a credit in the wrong place.
but you're saying that
In
you have a
general,
risk of not
here.
detecting it, so you're not as good
Well,
at
okay.
detecting those?
I see what you're saying now. So an audit isn't necessarily designed to detect fraud.
Okay, that's what I want to
An
understand.
audit is designed to make sure the financial statements are materially correct, right? And so there's risk-based, there's materiality levels. And to be perfectly honest, you know, unless you were to look at every single invoice, that'd be really difficult to pick that. If we picked 4, 5, and 6, and the fixed issue invoice was 2, you know, we're not gonna be able to see that. So our job is to try and design tests and controls to make sure that's materially correct while watching and looking for areas that could be fraud. But that's not necessarily our sole focus, is to
Right.
catch
But
that.
you are looking at the controls, and those are designed to prevent the fraud.
True, yeah, yep. And we try and test those controls and look at those as we're going through the audit to make sure that those controls are in place, hopefully to catch that.
Thank you for the analysis.
All right, any other questions?
You guys are killing me. I'm
For
the
our
only one that has
consultant.
questions.
Okay. Well, this is a review and action item to accept the report.
If there's no other questions, I'll commend Kristen. Appreciate all you do. You're the best. Thanks for knowing it inside and out. And I'll move to approve fiscal year 2024 audit report as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick. With a motion on the table, any further discussions about the motion? All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes unanimously.
Great.
Thank
If I
you for
could
your good
just-
work.
Throw out a shout out to Kristen too and their staff and those who help prepare the financial statements. You guys do a great job. So we appreciate the help. We throw a lot of stuff at them really quickly, and I appreciate them getting it back so fast.
It's always nice to hear that.
Awesome.
Thank you for including the shout out. I appreciate that.
That first. Rather than
Thank you, Ron.
All right. All right, we now are trying to move along here, so we'll go on to item number 9. This is a review and action item as well to update our interlocal agreement with the Major Crimes Task Force with the county. And will this be presented by our administrator then?
Yeah, so this is something we are part of this Major Crimes Task Force. I believe all of the cities within Utah County are part of this, and they had some changes in some of their policy on how that is managed and accounted for. So they've clarified some of the stipulations on how it's run, and this is just a request from Utah County, which is the parent organization, and then all of these cooperating cities within the county to adopt this updated version of the interlocal cooperation agreement that outlines the process to follow for the Major Crimes Task Force. So very
Pretty timely, right? Considering we just had to work with them on our, on this last incident. Chief, good to work with. This is a good organization, important thing to be a part of, I imagine.
Yeah, I think this is just minor language related to the updating from the last one. We do, every city, part of this interlocal agreement pays into some agencies. Some of the bigger agencies have personnel assigned to the task force, but it's an invaluable resource to us when we have big issues come up, which thankfully we don't have too many, but yeah, it's pretty good.
How often would you say we use major crimes?
It varies depending on what we're dealing with, but pretty minimal. Maybe 3 to 6 times a year.
Yeah.
So pretty minimal. They do operate county-wide. Their biggest function is drugs, illegal narcotics distribution. So they do come through time here and there chasing leads, and so they work within all of our communities.
So as I was trying to read through all of this, and of course, so much I don't really appreciate, right? But the question that I had, Orm's designated as the financial department, and I'll ask a question separate relative to that. But you're involved in this as far as, hey, is this working for us? Is this good for us? You're the person that we can ask, and you can give us a very good answer because you're involved with this intimately all the time.
Correct. So the Major Crimes Task Force has a board that includes chiefs with specific entities, usually the larger ones, Pro Orem, but we do get a monthly update on activities from the Major Crimes Task Force. So we are aware of the ongoings and where warrants are being issued, and so we're connected that way.
So when a citizen asks me, what about this? And of course, no one ever will, but if they were, I can say, Mike's monitoring this, Mike's involved, he reads the reports.
Yeah, if it's something directly related to Lindon, I'll know. Yeah, we'll know. That's the standard operating procedure, but we do get a general summary of activities to keep us, every member of the task force involved.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
So relative to the financial part, the city of Orem is designated as the financial department for the task force. Does that alternate year after year? Have they always been the bookkeepers?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is just keeping that all in one place just makes everything flow. They're able to be audited correctly, and rotating that through would complicate that process. So Orem just takes it. They have a secretary that's hired specifically to help with those types of things, and the members all contribute to help pay for that expense. Isn't that right, Chief?
Yeah, correct. So they have that that financial side, and then they have the operations side, which is managed by another entity. So it's divvied up assignments, but Orem has been fairly consistent with handling that aspect of the task force.
Okay, so I assume that oversight, making sure that everything's done well, they're following the same municipal type of events like auditors and this and that, and we can trust that that covers all of our worries or concerns or needs.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right, council, any other questions? If we're ready, I'd entertain a motion to accept the update to the interlocal agreement.
Lincoln's got it.
I move to approve Resolution 25-2R as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Now we will move on to item number 10. This is just something we are required to do under state law, to have some open public meetings training periodically provided to us. So we will do our annual training requirement here in the next few moments.
This year, we've had Brian give us some training in the past. We've watched some different videos. We're gonna watch a video that was prepared by the Utah Office of the State Auditor. And it's about 8 minutes long. If during that video you feel so inclined, if you want to be signing those documents that are in this next agenda item, I've already received Cole, Steve's, and Van's, and so, did we get you copies there? I think Brittany put copies of those on your desk, so. I will hit play, and if you have any questions, we'll address those afterwards, so.
So what is the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. We focus on local government, not state requirements. When in doubt, read the law and consult with your legal counsel. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a public body quorum, also known as a simple majority, meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget, imposes or increases taxes or fees, or transfers money from an enterprise fund. These meetings have extra notice and posting requirements and won't be addressed in this video. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. OPMA adds additional requirements too. An emergency meeting may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and a governing body majority approves the meeting. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, collective bargaining, litigation, certain real property transactions, including any form of a water right or water shares, with specific restrictions, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information per the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. A closed meeting may be held only if a quorum is present and the meeting was properly noticed. 2/3 of the governing body present at the meeting need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members present at the meeting. If 3 out of 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and would need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment, or take a vote, unless it's a vote on a motion to end the closed portion of the meeting and return to an open meeting. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, or several other exceptions, mostly related to state bodies or project entities, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made, which includes date, time, and place of the meeting, names of members present and absent, and names of all others, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Regular open and public meetings require 24 hours notice. The public notice includes the meeting agenda, date, time, and place. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Additionally, entities holding regular meetings scheduled in advance over the course of the year need to provide annual notice of the entire year's meeting schedule. The notice must include date, time, and place for each meeting.
Notice is posted on the public body's website, in a public location such as the location where the meeting will be held, and on Utah's public notice website in accordance with Utah Code 63G-30-102.
Typically, posting on the public notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website, archives.utah.gov. Written minutes and a recording are kept of all open meetings, with few exceptions. Written minutes include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters, names of citizens providing comments, the substance of the comments provided, any information a body member requests be entered into the minutes or recording, and a record by individual member of each vote taken. A body with elected members must record each vote in list format by category for each action taken by a member, including yes votes, no votes, and absent members next to each member's name. A recording must be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from beginning to end, and be labeled with the meeting date, time, and place. All or any part of an open meeting may be independently recorded by any person in attendance if the recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Pending minutes means written minutes of an open meeting in draft form subject to change before being approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. Approved minutes means written minutes of an open meeting approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Entities must establish and implement procedures for the public body's approval of written minutes. Public meeting pending minutes, approved minutes, and recordings are public records under GRAMA. Any individual who publicly presents information relating to an item on the public body's meeting agenda must provide a copy of the information for inclusion in the public record. Make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days. Within 3 business days after approving written minutes of an open meeting, make approved minutes and any public materials available at the Utah Public Notice website, the entity's primary office, and the entity's website. Within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, make an audio recording of the open meeting available to the public for listening.
Thank you for listening. Is there any questions that you have for me or Brian or Brittany?
What does it mean that the governing body's supposed to make sure that the notices are getting posted?
Ultimately,
It falls on
it's-
us.
It's on you guys, yeah.
Okay.
But you have professional hired staff that take care of that for you, so.
Okay.
You don't need to stress over that. But there's a lot of cities where they don't have any staff, but they have an elected city council and mayor.
Gotcha.
And so they're responsible to do those things, so.
Yeah, that
Little small towns.
My biggest takeaway from this was, dang, Brian's Jeopardy game is so much more engaging. And two, essentially what you just said, right? Knowing that we have Brian here almost always, because I come to all the planning commission meetings and Brian is also sitting there. I don't know how he has a life, but gosh, I'm so grateful that Lindon City has this staff, right? Down at the conference last year, Steve and I were talking to some of the Alpine people, and, you know, Alpine, rich community, they don't have, right? They don't have the sales tax base, so they can't afford, right? She's asking, how do you get volunteers to do your auditing? How do you, right? So grateful, Adam, for the staff that you've assembled, and Brian, for you being able to be here.
All right, thank you. Okay, that concludes the presentation on item number 10. So we'll move now to item number 11, which is a review and action item for the disclosure statements and ethical behavior that you all had in front of you.
So this is something along with the annual Open and Public Meetings Act training, we've just put on our January meetings just to try to make sure we remember to always do it every year. This is something that the state auditors have checked in the past, so that audit that just was presented, this is one of the things they look at is did we have disclosure forms completed, and they've checked us on that in the past. And so every January, our intent is to review these similar items. So let's see, Lincoln, you turned yours in, but I didn't get, there should be one more page for receipt of the policy manual. And then Jake's, looks like you've got yours. Mayor, do you have yours signed?
I do,
before
I have a
that?
quick question,
Yeah,
just a sidebar question.
okay.
That I'll do.
I'll let you
prior to that.
address that with Brian. And
Okay,
so the ethical policy is something, again, that the state required us to adopt certain policies and procedures. Those are all in our policy manual, which is available on our city website. Let me just pull it up really quick so you guys can all see where it's at. If you go to our homepage under Departments and Administration, and it's right there, Employee Policies and Procedures Manual. And so that is the entire manual, and it's searchable PDF, and we update it whenever we adopt new policies. So the conflict of interest statement and disclosure, I think you're familiar with that, having looked through it. And all of our employees are asked to fill out those same things, so that isn't just elected officials. And then same with the ethical behavior policy and receipt of the policy manual. So any questions on any of that, other than you need to ask Brian anything specific, so. Okay, that's all we have on that, so.
all right, with that said, that concludes our Lindon City Council meeting. With the upcoming joint work session, as a matter of procedure, do we just adjourn the regularly, or are we going to keep the regularly held
Adjourning
meeting?
this meeting, and we'll
Okay.
reopen a new meeting and call that meeting. Mayor, we'd ask you to call that meeting to
All
order
right.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
all right.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Broderick, seconded by Councilmember Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we have about 30 minutes before we will have the work session begin at 7 p.m. with the Planning Commission, so
Oh la la.
a little bit of time.
Moving down, right?
Yes.
Just leave your mics, we'll grab just 3 or 4 mics to put down here on this other table that you guys can pass around. Everything else we can clean up, and we're gonna pull these tables out, so.
Reserve.
just on